Hey guys, you're in for a treat today because we're going to learn a lot just from this pistol that came in last week. Okay, I'm going to tell you the story, so stick with me. This happened about 5 or 6 years ago. I sold this gun assembly, it's an RZM with capture papers, to a guy in Colorado. He just brought it back to me and said, how would you like to do a video? So 5 or 6 years ago, I wasn't on YouTube. We hadn't started the channel yet. And I often thought, oh, I'd love to get this gun back. Now, he didn't give it back to me for sale, so please don't write and say how much. It's going back to him, I promised. But there's a lot of history in this gun that I think we could learn from. So let's start off with what it is. First of all, on the outside, this is in a party leader holster. So those of you who subscribe to my channel, you know about the party leader holster. Has the party leader eagle on it with a dirty Nazi swastika. When we open it up, we see the writing. We'll talk about that more. We see the spare magazine, which is correct for an RZM because it's Walther banner only. Not important to the story, but it's a high polish Walther banner only. We'll set that aside. And then, of course, it would have the ACA marking. Under this closure strap, you see the ACA marking. Now, for the gun, you can see that it is an RZM marked, and that's, by the way, the Nazi purchasing department for the Nazi party. And you can see the serial. It's in the correct range. Actually, the Nazi party ordered about 30,000 of these RZMs, 30,000 of them, in 1934 and into 1935. So you'll also notice that this is not the party leader eagle. This is just a standard Walther banner grip. But we will talk about this, which is the party leader eagle, is actually an honor weapon and was given only upon recommendation of your supervisor. That's a different gun. This is an early RZM party member. I should say party member versus party leader, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And finally, this is the capture paper that came with the gun, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But let's take a look at some detail by having you come look over my shoulder. Okay, this is the sum of the parts. We'll set these aside. These are just merely high polish, Walther banner only, so early and correct for 1934. They typically came with, at least the RZMs, came with one flat bottom, which would be the spare in here. And then this with the finger extension would go with the gun. But again, if you watch my channel regularly, you already knew all that. So we're going to set that aside. But here's what makes this really special, and the reason I'm glad it came back to do a video. As we open it up, you can see inside, Doctor, you can't really read it, but we'll show you later, Rudolf Schünicke. And then the serial number of the gun right there. Now you would say, well, anybody could have written that in there. Okay, I'll give you that. Anybody could have written it in there. When we open up the flap, again, we saw the ACA marking. Notice that it is flat here. Normally they're rounded, but because of the Nazi eagle, they didn't want to cover up this swastika. That would be an abomination. But in Germany, they always cover up the swastika. So we open it up, and lo and behold, there's his name again, Rudolf, Dr. Rudolf Schünicke, and C.O. Winkelvoss. So this was one of the Winkelvoss twins, or his father. Not really. I'll say a little bit more about what we know about C.O. Winkelvoss. That's his GI number, and that's his unit. So we have the name of the German and the name of the GI. Now, we've done videos before of GIs who brought back guns. I've done a lot of videos, and here's a couple. You have the gun, the capture paper, and we talk about the GI, and we look up information about the GI. We also have had guns. I think we just did a rifle that belonged to the leader of the labor force. And so we know the German that owned it. So here we know the German that owned this pistol and the American. And as far as I know, this is the first and only time that Legacy has had both names and identified both people and verified who they are. So let's take, that's exciting. You know, see my hand shaking? That's because I'm excited. So let's learn a little bit more history of this gun. I already mentioned the RZM marking. It was made in 1934, probably sold to Rudolf, Dr. Rudolf Schünicke. I hope I'm saying, you Germans are wincing as I'm saying this, but I'm working on my German. The RZM made in 34, he bought it in 35. So let's say a little bit about that. The people used to call this a party leader. It's actually technically a party member, because anybody, you could be a janitor and join the party and still buy an RZM PPK, because part of your dues, see, and by the way, this is part of the best part of the story here. This is his member number. There's his name. I assume that's where he was from. Actually, he's from the district of Thüringen. And if you know the PPK logo, right here, T-H-U-R, Zellem was in the district of Thüringen. So he actually, Thüringen, he actually came from the same area as the Walther factory. He joined the party in 32, and he was able to buy this gun in 34 or 35. So the way that happened is you would pay your dues. And then one day you'd get a newsletter, not really, you'd get a communication from the party and say, hey, thanks for joining the party. As part of your benefits, this is kind of like AARP, as part of your benefits of joining our organization, you can buy a brand new Walther PPK at a discount. And we actually have the communications that it went out to the party members. Anybody who is a party member could buy one at a discount, and you could do a layaway plan. So you could pay over a period of 6 months or so, and just have a little bit taken out out of your paycheck every month. And lo and behold, you too could own this pistol. So that's how Dr. Rudolf Schünicke, that's how he obtained this pistol. Now, what kind of party leader what kind of party member was he? Some of these documents and some of the things that we looked up, it turns out he was some kind of a teacher. So doctor did not mean medical doctor. In Germany, it was very common for your higher education teachers to get a PhD. So certainly college professors would be doctor professor, but even secondary school teachers could be considered a doctor because they got their PhD. So I'm convinced that Dr. Rudolf was a teacher of some kind. And and now keep in mind, in order to get a job and teach children and mold the minds of the youth, guess what? You pretty much had to join the party. And some people would make the point, he may not have been a very loyal Nazi. He probably just wanted a job. He has to join the party in order to get a job because, again, you're teaching children. You want to indoctrinate the children to the Nazi party ideology. And so that's how he obtained this weapon. Now, here's another important part of this history. People ask me all the time, I have this nice early commercial gun, or I have this nice RZM. What kind of holster goes with it? The answer that I would always give is a tan AK holster. And they say, well, should it have the party leader eagle? No, it should not, because they didn't make these. It shows up for the first time in the party catalog in 1938. So this is made in 1934. This is made in 1938. This went to anybody who joined the party, and this was reserved for those people who were recommended by their immediate supervisor as being a good, honor-worthy member of the Nazi Party. That's why it was called the honor weapon. That, as you can see, has the swastika on the grip, and those sell for a lot more money. Lately, they've been going for $15,000 and more. And these holsters are easily selling for $35,000 or $4,500. This one, again, from 1938. This tells me he got this, and then later on, he probably had a standard holster. He saw the upgrade in the catalog and said, I'm going to go down there to the local Nazi Party store, and I'm going to pick me up one of those really cool Nazi Eagle party leader holsters. All right, now what else can we learn? He put his name in it. There's the serial number of the gun. I mentioned that already. He liked his name a lot because he put it here as well, so it is in two places. Then, at the end of the war is pretty much over. You can see March of 1946. Now, we know from looking at capture papers, they're almost always after the war was over. During the war, people really didn't have time to go to the local clerk and have this all typed up and get it all together and put it in their sack and make sure that everything was done legally. Every capture paper I've seen is after, maybe the exception of one, They're almost always, after the war was over, they took care of all this business. They're bored, they're picking up souvenirs and sending them home. I also mentioned Winkelvoss. Interesting name, not very common, and I have people who look up vets by their number and by their name, and we could not find anything on C.O. Winkelvoss. I jokingly said he was the father of the Winkelvoss twins. If you don't know who they are, look it up on Facebook. But the Winkelvoss twins, this is not, as far as I know, not a relative, uncommon name, but I could find nothing because he died in the 70s in the area of Pittsburgh. Back in the 70s, there wasn't a digital footprint on the internet at all. And today, most obituaries, we can look up people, anybody who died in the 1990s and past 2000, we can look up and we can usually find their grave, we can find their obituary, and therefore I could give you information about this vet. But you can see his number, his GI number, matches here. Also, his unit also matches here. And we were able to look up and see that this was, we confirmed that this is his actual number. So there is a Winkelvoss with that number, but I don't know any other history in terms of, he served in Germany. I'm not sure when he came back. If somebody can learn more information, that would be great. But we do know that this was a GI, this was his number, this was the paperwork that he did bother to fill out and bring back, and this was the German that carried it before he took it. Now, I doubt that he captured this man and took it from him. It probably was part of a roundup at the end of the war. They would go from town to town and they would get on a loudspeaker and say, you must. In fact, I have a sign, it's somewhere in this office. There's a sign that says, turn in all your weapons. If you're caught with a weapon, you could be executed. So people, and if he's again, he's a professor, he's a teacher, he's also a member of the party since 1932. He obediently turned in his weapon, and then the GIs would go through the piles and pick out guns to bring home, and that's what Mr. Winkelvoss did. Hey, Santa Claus is coming to town, so don't forget your gift certificate and also our calendars for the new year. Thanks for watching.